Hi everyone, so as we continue to talk about narratives, we're going to take a look at another narrative in our lovely readers called Introduction to Rosa Parks. So this is just a brief introduction before we learn about a personal narrative regarding another real person, Rosa Parks. Hopefully you have heard of her already. And let's take a look at page 28 if you follow along. Okay, this will have a lot of facts and there's a lot of big words, so please listen carefully. In 1954, in the case of Brown v. Board of Education, the United States Supreme Court ruled that the Constitution does not permit laws. So permit means it does not allow, okay? Does not permit laws requiring the separation of African Americans from whites. Before then, however, such laws were common, especially in the South, where African Americans often had to use separate bathrooms, ride in separate train cars, and attend separate schools. This forced separation of the races was known as segregation. I'm going to say that word again, segregation. So that word means it does force separation. So if you were African American, you were separated based on skin color from whites, okay? So in 1954, they said, nope, no more of this. No more segregation, no more separation between African Americans and whites. Okay, but before 1954, this did happen, okay? In theory, the separate African American facilities were supposed to be equal to those provided to whites, but this was hardly ever so. In the case of education, the results of segregation were especially harsh. Many state governments provided no support to African American schools, leading to many African American children receiving very poor educations. The next two personal narratives are by African Americans who grew up during this era of segregation. So we're going to be reading personal narratives from African Americans who were going through this separation just because they were African American. Rosa Parks' memoir, called Rosa Parks, My Story, is written by Jim Haskins. He describes her childhood in rural Alabama. Okay, Alabama is down south where segregation based on being African American was very, very harsh. Happened especially down south. And rural Alabama means pretty much country. So it is told by another author, not Rosa Parks, okay? Where African American children attended a run-down one-room schoolhouse, while the whites in the area went to a very modern school that Alabama paid for. Parks also writes about her efforts to fight segregation, including a very famous act of protest on a public bus. Bertie Bauman, the author of Step by Step, also grew up in the South during segregation. At the age of 13, he moved to Washington, D.C., and despite widespread prejudice against African Americans, he achieved great success as a business owner and working for the United States. So again, we are still looking at personal narratives, okay? We're going to take a look at our first one, Rosa Parks' My Story, How It Started by Rosa Parks with Jim Haskins. Okay, so keep your readers open. We will continue here